gonna focus on understanding nutrition and why it's essential for maintaining energy, focus, and overall health. Overview of topics covered, we're gonna talk about macronutrients, metabolism, meal planning, common myths that we might hear, hydration, and a little bit more. So who in here works out or focuses on their eating a little bit? Yeah. What kind of activities do y'all do?
So I do weightlifting.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm taking a class, a weightlifting class here, and then I do go to the gym outside of that also.
Awesome.
Go to goals.
Oh yeah. And do you focus on your nutrition at all? Is it mostly just physical activity?
I try to focus on nutrition, but like sometimes my job, like I'll be there for like 8 to 10 hours, and I just get like one lunch. So
Yeah.
I know I don't eat
As much as
I'm supposed
Yeah.
to. I know it's like almost like 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's a lot already to maintain, but
Yeah.
it can be difficult. Yeah.
So,
What about you? Do you want to share?
I generally walk 1 to 2 miles or more,
Awesome.
4 to 5 times a week. I live right next door to a park that's excellent for walking. As far as focusing on my meals, I have a stomach disorder that does not allow me to eat normal nutrients. I have to limit my fiber to under 5 grams a day.
Okay.
And the hydration is very difficult, so I'm looking for inventive ways
Okay.
to fix that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank y'all for sharing. Something that I've learned with being a personal trainer is everybody's story is different, right? So it's very important to personalize to the individual, right? You can't give everybody the same workout, the same plan. So it's good to get to know, your clients, the individual, what do they like to do, what kind of limitations do they have, whether it be physical activity or nutrition. So just some statistics about nutrition. So obesity rates, over 42% of United States adults are classified as obese, according to the CDC in 2023, which is a pretty big number. And as the years go by, that number tends to increase, right? So it's definitely something that we definitely need to focus here in the United States. Poor portion control and healthy diets contribute to weight gain. A lot of the times when I do see clients, they want to get straight into it, right, from 0 to 100. But it's important to take into account that small changes can lead to big results, right? You don't have to cut everything on the first day you start, right? Start cutting out soda here and there. Start cutting out, I have a lot of Hispanic families. So my parents are Mexican, so like las tortillas, the beans, they eat a lot of that, right? Tamales, right? So it's okay to eat that stuff in moderation, right? It's okay to enjoy those times with your family, but in moderation. You don't want to overdo it, but you also don't want to deprive yourself from those things, right? So just making sure you find that balance. Nutrient deficiencies, 90% of Americans do not eat enough vegetables and fruits. Again, according to the CDC, how many of you all eat fruits and vegetables every day? Right?
I don't want carrots.
Yeah, carrots, okay.
Carrots and bananas are like my goal.
Bananas, yeah. What do you?
For vegetable.
Vegetables?
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Tomato.
Tomatoes, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard, right? Just you thinking back, like, have I ate a fruit vegetable like in the past week, right? So maybe even just incorporating fruits and vegetables into your meals can make a huge difference, right? So if you haven't been eating vegetables, maybe incorporate broccoli. Even if you're eating, I tell my clients, even if you're eating a slice of pizza, incorporate a salad, incorporate some vegetables in there, right? To kind of help balance that out. 40% of adults are deficient in vitamin D, which can affect your bone health, right? Which is found in a lot of meat products, milk, yogurt, just any type of meats as well. So it's very important to eat your vitamin D as well, or drink. Processed foods and health risks. So ultra-processed foods make up nearly 60% of the average American diet, right? So what are processed foods?
Lunch meats,
Lunch meats, what else?
pastries.
Fast food, right? Something that we pick up maybe once a week. So you want to eat nutrient dense foods, right? So foods that are going to give you your vitamins, your nutrients, right? Instead of going to Burger King, to McDonald's, eating donuts, right? Those are all, I call them empty calories. So you eat them, but they're not providing any type of nutrient assistance, right? So you're eating basically calories that are just not gonna help, right? So try to choose those nutrient-dense foods. And then portion control. People who practice portion control are 30% more likely to maintain a healthy weight, right? Even if you're not eating healthy, making sure you portion control, right? And then eating mindfully can reduce daily calorie intake by 20%, according to Harvard Health. So just some quick little statistics that I wanted to share. And lastly, diabetes. Just because San Antonio does see a lot of diabetic people, and unfortunately we have a large population of Hispanics, and that's really where they see a lot of diabetes cases. So in the United States, 38 million people have diabetes. 1 out of 10 people have diabetes, and then 1 out of 5 people don't know that they have diabetes, right? Because maybe they just don't go to their regular checkup doctors, right? So going to doctors is also very important, making sure you go yearly just to check up, see what your blood work says, right? Because if not, how are you gonna know if you have diabetes, if you're pre-diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, right? How are you gonna make a change if you don't even know that you have to make a change, right? So just some things for you guys to think about. So let's talk about macro and micronutrients, right? I'm pretty sure you've heard these a lot. What is macro, what is micro, right? Macronutrients are gonna be your protein, your carbs, and your fats, which is what people usually focus on. We have carbohydrates, which is the main source of energy, right? A lot of people think that if you cut out carbs, you're gonna lose weight, but at the end of the day, you need those carbs to help support you and fuel you for the day. It's what gives you energy. And then we have proteins, which helps with muscle growth, muscle repair, and some sources are gonna be any meats, lentils, beans, spinach is really high in protein as well, tofu if you are vegetarian, right? So there's a lot of ways for you to get your protein. And then we have our fats, which support brain health and hormone production. So again, you do want to eat fats, right? But you also want to eat healthy fats like avocado, nuts, olive oil. Things are gonna help you nutrition-wise, right? And then we have micronutrients, which are the nutrients that you probably cannot gain from some foods. So you have vitamins. So a lot of times people would take vitamins, if they're not getting these vitamins from their foods, right? Maybe they're vegetarian, maybe they can't eat certain foods, right? So it's good to kind of help supplement that with vitamins. And then minerals to maintain bone health and nerve function. Again, these are also found in some foods, but if you are lacking those foods or having this type of limitations, you can also supplement. Then we have hydration, right? How many of you drink water? Good amount of water. I always carry I say emotional support cup everywhere to help with my water, especially with teaching. I noticed that I talk a lot, so it's like I need that water, but it helps with digestion, helps regulate temperature, and it boosts your performance as well if you go to the gym, right? You want to make sure you still stay hydrated before, during, and after any type of physical activity, just to help prevent dehydration. Then we have this plate here. This is kind of what your plate should be looking like when you're eating. We have half of your plate has fruits and vegetables. A quarter of your plate, you want to have your protein, any type of meats, eggs, whatever you like to eat for your protein. And then a fourth of your plate, you want your carbs, pasta, rice, bread, whatever it is that you want for your carbs. But half of your plate, you want it to be vegetables, right? So it doesn't have to be how many calories am I eating, how much protein am I supposed to be eating, how much carbs. Just think of your plate, half of your plate, vegetables and fruits, a fourth meat or protein, and a fourth carbs, right? Any questions on that? All right. So a lot of times we talk about calorie, right? So what is a calorie? A calorie is a unit of energy needed to fuel the body, right? So your foods are gonna fuel your body. How much calorie you're intaking, that's gonna tell you how many calories you need just to maintain physiological functions. So we have the basal metabolic rate, which are the calories that are burned at rest. So right now we're just sitting, doing nothing. this is your BMR, right? Just sitting, this is how many calories you're burning, just sitting down, just to breathe, just to have those physiological functions happening in your body. Then we have total daily energy expenditure, which is TDEE, which is your BMR plus if you do any type of physical activity, right? If you don't do any physical activity, that can change your TDEE. But if you do physical activity, it's good to take that into account. If you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, you want to eat according to that. And then we have impact of metabolism on weight. So factors affecting metabolism, your age, right? So as you get older, it's harder for you to maintain these physiological functions, right? Your body's not working the same from when you're 50 to when you're 19, right? It's gonna work a little harder. Muscle mass. If you have more lean muscle, you're gonna be burning more calories at rest. Why? Because when you are at rest, you need more calories to maintain muscle mass, right? So if you have more lean mass, then you need more energy to help maintain that lean mass. When you go to the gym, you work out your muscles, they break and repair, right? So that requires energy and fuel, right? So if you have more lean mass, your BMR is gonna be higher. Activity level, of course, if you go to the gym, that's gonna impact your caloric intake and caloric daily expenditure. This is just a few calculations if you are interested in calculating your BMR. So your BMR equals 10 times your weight in kilograms plus 6.25 times your height in centimeters minus 5 times your age in years plus 5. So if you ever just want to figure out how many calories you're burning just sitting down, that's what it is. Some more calculations and formulas, right?
That's what I was thinking.
And then your TDEE is your BMR times your activity factor. So based on your activity level, you're gonna multiply that by your BMR. So if you're sedentary, don't move at all, or not active, that's gonna be 1.2, lightly active, 1.375, moderately, 1.55, very active, super active. So you would just multiply those numbers with your BMR.
What would you consider a person in those active factors, whether they're sedentary, you're just sitting there, you really don't do anything besides walk around your house and do little things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but what do you consider moderately active?
I would say like something where you're not overexpending yourself. So I always tell my clients, if you're able to talk through the workout, then that would be like a moderate, right? If you are lightly active, would just maybe be like daily activities at home. Like if you're doing long work, that'd be lightly active. Like you're kind of expending energy, but it's not too much, right? Moderately active would be kind of like a brisk walk, walking at the park, right? Treadmill walk. Very active, I would say maybe going to the gym, doing resistance training plus cardio, and then super active, just a little bit more to that, right? So it also depends on how many times a week you were to do it. So if you do once or twice, 3, 4 times, 5 times, that can also affect that.
And that would vary per person?
Per person, yeah. So it just depends on how you feel would be wherever it falls. Usually for clients, if they maybe go 1 to 2 times a week, I would say moderate. If they go 3 to 4, very active, and then maybe 5, 6, 7, that would be more like super active.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So the BMR is the minimum amount of calories your body needs to function while at rest, and then the TDEE is the total amount of calories your body needs to function while active, including your BMR. So let's talk about caloric deficit, right? So what is caloric deficit? That just means that you are eating less calories than you're burning, right? So this is usually what people do to lose weight. However, just because you're eating under your caloric intake, you want to be eating foods that are still nutrient dense, right? Just because this Happy Meal fits in my caloric intake doesn't mean that's probably the best option for you to do, right? So maybe you can only eat one Happy Meal and that takes up your whole caloric intake, so I'm not going to eat for the rest of the day because I already hit my calories, right? That's also not healthy, but it's going to give you an idea of where you want to fall, right? And then we have dangers of extreme deficit. So if you were to cut out too much, right? I feel like there's always an extreme to each level, right? So if you were to eat too little, you can have muscle loss, fatigue, and a weakened immune system. As a bodybuilder, we definitely cut a lot to where it's not healthy. So you want to go to the lowest body fat percentage that you can. You're pretty much depriving your body from a lot of nutrients, which is why we take a lot of supplements. For me, myself, I felt like it was mentally affecting me as well, and which is why I just stopped doing shows. Because it definitely takes a toll on your body, physically and mentally. So I would not recommend doing a really, really low caloric deficit, just because it can affect you in many, many ways. Health deficit strategies, so reduce calorie intake slightly while focusing on nutrient-dense foods, and then increase physical activity rather than starving. So think of food as fueling your body for exercise, for physical activity, right? Instead of thinking of your food, I have to eat less to hit a certain weight goal, right? Food is fuel, and that's what I tell my clients. Fuel your body with things that are gonna help you. And if you eat a cookie here or there, just know you're fueling your body for the gym, right? Use that extra calories to go to the gym and get a good workout, or go on a walk, right? Don't deprive yourself from those yummy foods. Just find that balance. And it's really hard. It's really hard. I won't say it's easy, but you have to start. Everybody starts somewhere, right? And then we have caloric surplus. So there's some people who want to gain muscle, right? And this is where caloric surplus will come in. And this is eating more calories than your body burns. When I say more calories, more nutrient dense foods, right? You want to prioritize eating protein, especially if you're trying to build muscle, right? Because protein is the building block of muscle. So you want to eat a lot of proteins, lean meats, dairy, nuts, legumes, and then strength training to help with muscle growth, right? So you want to focus on progressive overload for muscle gain. So slowly increasing the weight, increasing the reps to help increase muscle growth. Any questions on that? All right. And then I always like to show like the scale. So if you're wanting to go for weight loss, you want to eat less calories than you're expending, right? So you're burning more energy, but you're eating less, right? So here's the scale. And then if you want to maintain weight, you're just eating the same calories, expending the same calories, right? So that equals out. And if you want to gain weight, you want to eat more, and then than what you're expending, right? The calories based. So weight loss, weight maintenance, and weight gain. Again, you want to eat those nutrient dense foods, right? So portion control is some ways to maintain a caloric deficit. Using smaller plates to measure servings. So sometimes we're at home when we have the big 11-inch plates, right? And we think, okay, yeah, I'm gonna eat one plate of food, right? But what exactly, how big is that one plate, right? Or you go to Olive Garden and they give you the big pasta, right? So that's, oh, I would just say one plate of pasta, right? But how much was in there, right? I don't think anybody actually finishes that. And then we have choosing nutrient-dense foods, so whole foods over processed foods. So maybe trying not to cut out fast foods, or try going less, or buying for snacks instead of buying like processed snacks. Try to buy fruit, apples, bananas. My daughter is obsessed with melon right now, so buy cantaloupe all the time, and berries. So try to have those at home, so if you do want a snack, you have those available to you. What I do also is I'll cut them before, and I'll just put them in Tupperware. So if I do want them, it's already cut, easy for me to reach, right, for the week. And then high fiber foods, just to kind of keep you full as well can help. So that's what they say, half of your food or plate, you want vegetables like broccoli, right, because those kind of fill you up, and then whole grains as well. And then balanced meal planning. So maybe plan your meals for the week, right? Write down, what am I gonna eat this week? When I go grocery shopping, I'm gonna focus on my meal planning, right? This is all I'm gonna buy. I used to work at the YMCA, and we used to work with the Prevention Diabetes program, and we would take the group to HEB, and we would show them how to shop at HEB. So we would start with the vegetables and the fruits, and then we'd go around the store to the meats, and then you would have your dairy, and then we'd go into like the grains, the bread, tortillas, whatever. We would skip the candy aisle, we skip the chips aisle, right? Because that's all processed, we don't need that, right? And then we would continue around the store, right? So that's usually how me and my husband shop. We shop like that, and then we just maybe go into the juice aisle for my daughter, and that's pretty much it. We would also teach them how to read food labels, which is also really important. What's in the foods that you eat, right? A lot of times there's a lot of ingredients in there that you are not even familiar with. So why are you gonna put something in your body that you don't even know what it is, right? So we would have them read food labels, and it's not just about the calories, right? It's also about what is in there as well. So things like that, it's kind of important, but we typically just push it to the side, but it's really important to kind of look at what you're buying, especially also if you're trying to budget as well. If you stay with your list, you're probably gonna stay under your budget, right? I also like to talk about the MyPlate, and you can just go to myplate.gov, and it kind of gives you a little plate kind of representing of what you should be eating. It's a visual guide from the USDA to help create balanced meals. It divides the plate into 5 food groups, which is vegetables, fruits, grains, protein, and dairy. Again, half of your plate, 1 vegetables or fruits, or one or the other. It gives your plate also a lot of variety in color, right? So you add bell peppers, orange bell peppers, red bell peppers, broccoli, right? It also gives you some time to try new vegetables, try new fruits, right? Maybe you haven't tried like a dragon fruit, or something fun that you want to try. Incorporate those. Look for recipes to incorporate those vegetables. And then 1/4 of your plate, you want your lean protein, 1/4 your whole grains, and maybe here and there you have your dairy, right? Try to look for low fat or non-dairy alternatives. So a lot of the times when we go shopping, we buy like the cheese, and there's like the low skim cheese, right? Milk cheese. So those are some things that you can also look into. And then whenever we buy like the bacon or something, it says low sodium bacon. Those are kind of things to look into as well when you're going grocery shopping. Any questions on the mic? So here's some myths that we kind of hear. Carbs make you fat. Again, I kind of talked about that a little bit. But carbs do not make you fat. They are the main source of energy for you, right? Excess calories can cause weight gain, but it's not just because of your carbs, right? What you're putting into your body is what causes weight gain. Eating late at night causes weight gain. And this, my mom, I don't know if it's like a Mexican thing, but she's like, if I eat before 6, I'm not gonna gain weight. And I'm just like,
it's not a Mexican thing, it's a universal
it's a
mom
universal,
thing.
okay, well, there you go.
We want to close the kitchen.
Yeah, no, so it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, the amount of calories you eat a day, it's not gonna change, right? If you eat before 6, if you eat after 8, you still ate the same amount of calories, right? So overall calorie intake matters more than timing, right? When I was in my bodybuilding show, sometimes I would eat dinner at 10 and I was still losing weight, right? So it doesn't matter when you're eating, it just depends what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. Detox diets are necessary. How many of you have heard of the detox teas or the detox this? They are not necessary. Your liver, your kidneys naturally will detox your body, right? So you don't need to do any type of detox. Just start eating healthier. Start making those small changes, and eventually you'll start seeing a change. And then for water, make sure you drink 8 to 10 cups of water. I was gonna say coffee. 8 to 10, not 8 to 10 cups of coffee. You're like, okay, say less. 8 to 10 cups per day, more with exercise. So if you are drinking 8 to 10 cups a day, and you do work out, you want to drink more water. Why is that? Because when you work out, you lose water, right? 'Cause you sweat it out, or it goes through. So you want to make sure you replenish that water that you're losing when you're working out. It affects dehydration, so sometimes you might feel fatigue, dizziness, poor concentration, right? Because you're not hydrated. So make sure you drink your water. Take your emotional support cup everywhere, right? Or keep water bottles. So just drink your water. Some alternative sugary drinks, you can take herbal teas, infused water. I used to put a lot of cucumber, berries, mint in my water just to give it flavor, and it would kind of help as well. And then electrolytes if needed. Sometimes they sell the sugar-free electrolytes that you can put in your water. It gives it flavor. But I know sometimes it's hard to drink all your water, but just do whatever works for you, right? For me, just carrying my cup helps. That way I have no excuse. I have my cup with me. What are some other ideas y'all can think of to help y'all with your water intake?
Well, I know, because I cannot physically drink that much water, my stomach does not allow it.
Okay.
So I was told to drink the pH 9.5 waters,
Okay.
because supposedly it rehydrates you better than drinking just like plain bottled water or water from the tap.
Good. I didn't know that, so that's good to know. It has extra electrolytes in it?
Extra electrolyte, but it has to be 9.5 or above in the pH
Got
for
it.
it to count.
Good. I know my friend drinks a lot of alkaline water
Mhm,
too.
yeah.
Just to help with that as
Mhm.
well.
And it does work, and it tastes better.
She says that all the
It
time.
does, I swear.
And I don't think I've drank it enough to feel the difference. I'm like, girl, it's just water. But she does say, you need to drink alkaline water. It tastes better. And I'll have to try it. Because I know she gets the big water jugs with the alkaline water, so I'll have to go where she goes to, because we have the big water jug machine. To fill
Yeah,
up the
my
water.
doctor and the pharmacist that I used to use also is the one that told me it had to be 9.5 or above
Got it.
for it to count.
I'll start doing that. I'll take your word on it. I'll take your word. And then some special diets and considerations. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you're gonna have some lower nutrient deficiencies, right? So ensure your adequate protein intake, supplement vitamin B12 if needed. So again, these are things you can talk to your doctor about as well. So let them know I'm a vegetarian. Sometimes you can do blood work to kind of see where you have any type of deficiencies. Some common sources for that would be lentils, tofu, quinoa, fortified cereals, and nutritional yeasts that are very high in protein. Food allergies and intolerances. Avoid allergenic foods. Find suitable alternatives. So like gluten-free grains, rice and quinoa, dairy-free milk, which is like almond, soy milk, and then nut-free snacks as well. And then supplement use. Necessary if lacking nutrients from diet, unnecessary if getting sufficient nutrients from whole foods. So a lot of times you'll see people taking a bunch of supplements, right? They'll take protein and creatine and this and that, right? But at the end of the day, if you feel like you need it and you think you're not getting it through your food, then okay. But if you're just doing it just to drink it, at the end of the day, it's just gonna go down. It's just gonna go right through you. So a lot of times you're just wasting money on supplements unless you feel like you do have a deficiency, or you're trying to, increase your protein intake, and maybe a shake is the easiest thing you can do in the mornings, right? So again, it depends on the individual, but at the end of the day, eat your proteins or eat your nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients from your foods. That's what it's most recommended. And then we have multivitamins, omega-3s, protein powders, and probiotics, which are a few that you can take to help with supplements. So some recaps, we have balanced nutrition is key to overall health. Small sustainable changes lead to long-term success. Meal planning and hydration are essential. Avoid nutrition myths and make informed choices. Any questions?